May the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John. When Judas had left them, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and God will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little while longer. I give you a new commandment: love one another. As I have loved you, so you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." The Gospel of the Lord. We are all familiar with what have come to be called the last 7 words of Jesus on the cross. And one of these is found in the Gospel of St. Luke, when Jesus cries out, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." What does this mean? Of course they knew what they were doing. They were putting a human being to death. So what can Jesus possibly mean when he says, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing"? Let's look at it first in our own lives. We all do wrong. We all sin. We all do things we shouldn't do, and we all fail to do the things that we should do. And we cause evil in the world. The damage to ourselves and to others that comes from the wrong that we do and the good that we do not do is real. But for the most part, we are innocent. Not because we do not know that what we're doing is wrong. We do know that. What we don't know is how much we are loved. I am completely convinced that if we all knew how much loved and cherished by God we are, we would be different persons. So when Jesus asks his Father to forgive his executioners, they do not know what they are doing, Jesus is asking that they be forgiven because they did not know how deeply they were loved. They were ignorant of the love that God had for them. So not realizing that we are unconditionally loved is the real darkness, the real ignorance. When we sell ourselves short, when we hurt others or damage their reputation, when we settle for second best, when we abandon our ideals, when we fill up with rage or jealousy, when we do these things, we usually know that what we are doing is wrong. But what we don't know is how loved and cherished we are. We are not so much bad or malicious, rather we are wounded and despairing of love. So the words of Jesus, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing," is a challenge to let some light into our own darkness. We will finally realize that we're sinning, not when we know the laws or when we get a degree in sort of moral theology, but when we sense how much we are loved and how precious we really are. Until that happens, we continue living in darkness that lets us go on crucifying Christ, crucifying others, and crucifying ourselves. So all miracles begin with the act of falling in love. those who killed Christ acted in a darkness that resulted from never having been properly loved or the experience of someone falling in love with them. You just couldn't do that if you had fallen in love with someone or they had fallen in love with you. So Jesus Christ died on the cross so that no one could say, no one has ever fallen in love with me, because he has. Christ died to reveal to us more fully how we are held in love by God. God has fallen in love with each one of you. You don't give up your son to die on the cross if he would not have done that had he not fallen in love with you. So in the gospel today, Jesus commands his disciples and us to love one another as he has loved us. That only begins to be possible when we realize in the depths of our hearts and souls that he died on the cross for us, that we might know someone fell in love with us and how deeply loved and cherished we are. And he challenges us, indeed commands us to love one another in the same way. The most important word in that little statement is as. As I have loved you, love one another. When you think about it, it's not only difficult, it's almost impossible. But there are similar commands in the gospel. Forgive us as we forgive those. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. But we have to remember that when God asks something of us, he also gives us the grace to do it. So Jesus' command to love one another, it's not just a command, it's his promise to us. That means that one day he will make this kind of loving possible. We are all on the way to loving one another as he has loved us. But how far you have to go on the way is directly related to how deeply you know that God has fallen in love with you and that his son died on the cross that you might know the depth of this love. I hope that when you look at Jesus on the cross, that you believe and know even more deeply how you are held in the love of God, and that he will help you and me to love in the same way as he has loved us.